One stupid moment. That is all it takes to ruin everything. Like an artist who spends months painting the masterpiece and then trips up and spills paint all over it. Like the great loyal company worker who works so hard for the company, then makes one bad decision, then makes such a huge loss. Or the fight that starts because just for one moment you lost your self-control. One moment losing concentration. One moment of no self-control. One stupid moment. Everything is ruined. And this is the story of Noah's one stupid moment. Maybe you heard the story of Noah many times, Noah and the flood, when you were younger. And I wonder if they taught you this part. This is a weird moment in the story. It's such a shocking twist ending to it. After this, in verse 29, Noah dies. This is the last we see of him. This is his final scene in his movie. But it's a scene that we often edit out because we think this doesn't seem to fit the character of Noah as we know him. Holy Noah, faithful, ark-building Noah, yes. Drunk Noah? No thanks. But God knows what he's doing. God has a reason to end the story of Noah in this way. This is the conclusion, whether we like it or not. This is the big conclusion to the story of Noah in the Bible. And God does it this way for a reason. He's trying to say something to us. And if you've ever had a stupid moment, then this story is for you. Noah began to be a man of the soil, and he planted a vineyard. He drank of the wine and became drunk, and lay uncovered in his tent. Now it's sad when someone has a stupid moment, but it's especially sad when that person is somebody who we had such high hopes for, such great expectations about. If you remember at his birth, Noah's father expected Noah to bring relief to many people from the curse of Adam's fall. And as Noah grew up, he walked with God. He believed God's warnings, he followed God's instructions, and he prepared the ark. So he knows Jesus, and so he ends up showing Jesus. He ends up becoming like a preview of Jesus for us. He's the faithful one who saves his family from God's judgment by his faithfulness. He is the one who makes a pleasing sacrifice to God, to make a covenant, to bring the world into a covenant with God. As we've gone through the story of the flood, I've been showing you all the echoes of the creation story, that the flood was God kind of undoing creation. He saw that humans had become evil in their hearts, and he regretted creating us, so he sent the waters back over us. But Noah he rescued, and he brought the waters down again. He sent the trees up, and he takes the first man, Noah, and he puts him once more on the land, and he says, multiply and rule, fill the earth. Noah then seems to be our second Adam, a new leader for humanity, a new hope for humanity. And everything that we've seen from Noah so far makes us expect that he is going to succeed where Adam failed. He's going to be the Adam who doesn't mess up, who doesn't have one stupid moment. The last story from Noah's life, though, he messes everything up. Sadly, Noah's similarities to Adam include having one stupid moment that ruins everything. See the similarities between the two stories. So God planted a garden for Adam to live in. And then here we have Noah planting an orchard, again, full of fruit. And then Adam does something wrong using the fruit in the garden. And so does Noah. and both men end up naked and ashamed. Failed. Before Adam's sin, man and his wife, they were both naked, but they were not ashamed. After eating the fruit, they became ashamed of their nakedness. And in a twisted version of that, here is Noah naked, but because he's drunk, he doesn't feel the shame of what he's done. Because of the alcohol, he feels no shame in his nakedness anymore. But certainly to us, the readers of the story, this is a low point for Noah. This is a humiliating moment of nakedness for Noah. And the reason God puts this in the story is to show us Noah is not the one who will bring you relief. Noah is not the promised rescuer. Keep waiting. So if Noah is like our second Adam, then here is our second fall. Once again, we have our first man surrounded by God's generosity, God's provision, and he is sinning with fruit in the garden. He is naked and humiliated. Nothing has changed. Still, humans, however holy we seem to be, still we cannot enjoy good things from God in any lasting way. Whatever fruit, whatever good things God gives us, in the end, we always find a way to twist it, to use it, to turn it against him. Now, while we're on this topic, I'll just take an aside for a moment and just say a little bit about alcohol, because it's a question people ask: can Christians drink? And the biggest mistake here is thinking that this is a simple yes-no question. Here are 3 things to think about before you have a drink of alcohol. The first, in the Bible, drinking is not always wrong. So Jesus drinks wine with his disciples at the Last Supper. Jesus turns water into not just wine, but very good wine at a wedding. Paul tells Timothy to drink wine for his stomach when he's sick. And so saying that alcohol is always wrong, that is adding something to God's law. That is going beyond what God has said. And so using not drinking as a measure of how close someone is to God, that is a mistake. That is not a biblical way. So that's the first thing. Drinking alcohol is not automatically always wrong. However, drunkenness definitely is wrong in the Bible. Whenever you see those big long lists of sins, very often you will find drunkenness on those sins. Alcohol makes us lose our self-control over our thoughts and feelings. And because it works this way, being drunk stops us being able to enjoy God and follow God. So Ephesians 5:18, do not get drunk with wine. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. Those two are opposites. So if you choose one, you miss out on the other. So drunkenness is always wrong. Drinking alcohol is not always wrong. The third thing to think about, there are reasons and seasons to not drink alcohol. So you are free to drink if you want, as long as you don't get drunk, but there are other things to think about here. So sometimes people in the Bible choose not to drink alcohol because it's part of a promise that they are going to focus on serving the Lord more. So John the Baptist is probably the most famous example. Also, if you are going to drink, think about this. Think about the people around you. We live in a culture which is a culture of alcohol addiction. It's a culture of lots of abuse and relationship problems that are very connected to drunkenness and drinking too much alcohol. And so in that situation, think about what you're drinking as a Christian, what message that will send to the people around you. All things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. Not all things build up. So we may be free to drink but we are never to celebrate that freedom in a way that leads somebody else to stumble into sin. So in a place where drunkenness is a problem, we do well to think carefully about what message our drinking sends. So those are just 3 things to think about on alcohol. It's not always wrong. Drunkenness is always wrong. And there are other reasons and seasons not to drink. Getting drunk was Noah's sin. That was his stupid moment. But if we read this story, actually, we might be best not to call it Noah's stupid moment, because actually the focus of this story is not Noah's sins. Actually, it's Noah's sons. In verse 18, this story is introduced to us as a story about Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So if Noah is not the promised one, then the responsibility, the line of the promise, gets passed on to the next generation. Verse 19 tells us, from these 3 sons, the people of the whole earth were dispersed. So the focus here is not just on Noah's one stupid moment. It's on how Noah's stupid moment is going to affect the whole earth. What I mean is, Noah's sons will each react differently to Noah's sin. And these reactions will decide the future of the nations that will come from them. So the first reaction is Ham, Noah's youngest son. And if Noah is like another Adam, then here Ham is playing the part of another Cain. He is the one who he takes his father's sin and he makes it worse. Verse 22. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his 2 brothers outside. Now it's easy for us to miss why this is such a really bad thing, because there's not much detail given there. And we would think, well, what's so bad about telling his brothers what he saw? What's so bad about a little gossip or a little joking to your brothers about your parents' failures? Doesn't everybody do that? In our modern culture, respect for parents and respect for authority in general is very low on our list of qualities we admire. That is very low on our list of what makes somebody a good person, is respect for parents. In the Bible, though, respecting our parents is incredibly high. So think about the 10 Commandments. You have 4 commands about how to relate to God, and then 6 about how to relate to other people. And the first of those, about how to relate to other people, is honor your father and mother. That is the foundation, the starting point for how we relate to others, is how we grow up learning to respect and relate to and honor our parents at home. Exodus 21:17 takes it even further. Whoever curses his father or mother shall be put to death. That is how seriously this was seen in that original context in which it happened. And if we are not seeing the seriousness, then that is our cultural blind spot, if you like, that we are struggling to see what's going on because of the way that the environment we have grown up in. Whatever he did, Ham reacted wrongly to his father's sin. I imagine he was drawing attention to it in a way that was mocking, a way that he was humiliating his father. He's like, come and see Dad make a fool of himself. Come and see how ridiculous our father has become. He drew attention to Noah's nakedness. So I think we can describe Ham's sin as celebrating nakedness. With the shame of nakedness that comes from sin, that shame is a joke. That shame is a small thing, or even a fascination for Ham. Noah got drunk and he forgot about the shame. But Ham went further. He celebrated the shame. He drew attention to the shame. And the result of that is a curse. A curse simply means a bad word. A blessing is saying something positive about someone. A curse is saying something negative. So when Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan. A servant of servants shall he be to his brothers." So even though Noah had his stupid moment, Noah is still a man of God, and God uses him one last time. So the curse that Noah says about his son comes true in the end. In the end, Canaan's nation did end up defeated, a servant of the nation of his brothers. But isn't that strange? Why was it Canaan? If Ham did wrong here, why curse Canaan? If it was the son who did wrong, why curse the grandson? This is not random, actually. The story builds up to this. Verse 1, Ham was the father of Canaan. Verse 22, Ham, the father of Canaan, did this. And then verse 25, cursed be Canaan. Now, possibly, Canaan joined in with what his father was doing. But it doesn't say that. However, we do know that the descendants of Canaan in the future got a reputation for this kind of thing. So if you have some time later, perhaps read Leviticus 18. I know not many people read Leviticus, but in here there are commands that God gives He gives to his people, and there's specific commands about all the people you should not uncover the nakedness of. And most of those are relatives in there. But that chapter 18, Leviticus 18, begins by saying, "You shall not do as they do in the land of Canaan." So Canaan's probably not innocent here. Perhaps another reason for it is we can see in this how sin affects the family. Noah's sin was an opportunity that led to Ham's sin, and Ham's sin passes down to the next generation as well. And down the generations until you have a whole nation that is known for certain kinds of shameful things. If you have a stupid moment, if you have a habit of ongoing stupid moments, then it's going to make it really hard for the people around you to keep their faith. Especially your children, especially those who are under your authority. If you mess up, you're going to very likely bring a whole series of temptations and bad things and opportunities to sin upon them as well. Your decision to break one of God's commands is not just between you and God. Firstly, it is between you and God, but it will affect the people around you as well. We are more connected than we realize, so whether we're building each other up or we're sinning, we're having an effect on the people around us. If Ham celebrated his father's nakedness and shame, then see how Noah's other sons react in the opposite way. Instead of joining with whatever Ham's doing. Verse 23, Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both their shoulders, and walked backward, and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned backward, and they did not see their father's nakedness. Their response is the right response to their father's nakedness. Ham celebrates what he's seen. He looks at it. He's fascinated by it. He draws attention to it. Shem and Japheth do not look, and they cover it. They cover nakedness. Perhaps they had remembered what happened to Adam and Eve. Perhaps they remembered the story of how God had provided garments of skins to cover Adam and Eve's nakedness. Perhaps they knew that the nakedness and shame of sin needs to be covered. And as they cover his shame, they honor their father. Even though he's sinning, even though he's in the middle of a massive stupid moment, they follow God's command, they honor their father. They try not to let his sin be an excuse for them to have their own stupid moments. They do everything they can to not be pulled into that mistake. Ham got Noah's curse for celebrating nakedness, but Shem and Japheth, they are blessed sons for covering nakedness. So Noah also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge Japheth, let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant." So both sons are blessed there. Shem comes out of it slightly better. Japheth lives in Shem's tents, not the other way around. And I think the clue perhaps there is that it says, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem." So Shem is blessed, but his blessing comes through the Lord, the God of Shem. So Shem is already in some kind of relationship with God that we can say this is Shem's God. And that is how the greater blessing comes to him, that he is in relationship with God. And so in the story of the Bible, the line of the promise continues not through Japheth, but through Shem. So that's the story now. What is this story telling us today? It's telling us that blessing and curse come to us based on how we react to nakedness. And we could say all kinds of things here about our culture's obsession with naked human bodies, with perfect body shape, with pornography, and it is right to apply this passage to those issues. However, we should be careful not to limit this passage to those issues. Remember in Genesis so far, in Genesis 3, Adam and Eve's shame and their nakedness, they represent the shamefulness of sin before God. Their shame at being naked is a picture of the breakdown in trust in relationships between each other and between them and God. So we feel embarrassed and ashamed when we are naked in front of other people. But that's just a small thing compared to the bigger shame, the bigger vulnerability we feel when we are in the presence of God. He sees not just our bodies, he sees everything about us. Before God, you're exposed and open and vulnerable in every way. He sees everything in our hearts. Before God, we burn red, not with embarrassment, but with a guilt far worse than embarrassment. And so the question for us is, how do we react to that nakedness? Are we like Ham, celebrating and exploring and drawing attention to shameful things? Are we enjoying looking at everything shameful about sin and trying to pull others in, advertising it to others? Or are we like Shem and Japheth, who know that the nakedness of sin needs to be covered up? Who try to protect ourselves from even looking upon that sin, to protect ourselves from the temptation to take part in that sin. When God looks at us, does he see us in the cursed group or the blessed group? It's not enough just to cover sin with a garment. It's important what we cover it with. So remember, Adam and Eve tried to hide their own sin. They tried to cover their own sin with leaves. It didn't work. God saw right through it. He knew what they'd done. Then God provides the right covering. He provides the garments of skins from dead animals. And last week we saw that develop into the idea of sacrifice of animals. God demanding a payment of lifeblood for lifeblood to cover our humiliating nakedness. And in the end, we see even animal skins are not enough for this. All of this points forward to the greater covering of Jesus Christ. The only thing that can cover sin properly is the perfect life of Christ, given for us in blood on the cross. So what I read from at the start from Isaiah 61 is God is clothing us with righteousness. What we saw in Galatians 3:27, we put on Christ like clothes. That is what covers us. That is what covers our nakedness and shame before God. is we wear Jesus Christ. He becomes what we wear. Only he can cover our nakedness. So first, think about your own nakedness. Think about your own exposure. You, like Noah, like every one of us, have had your stupid moment, ignoring God, doing what displeases God. Your one moment where you lose control, you mess up, you failed, you fell, people got hurt, God was ignored. And I'm sure if you're anything like me, it's not just one moment. It's a lifetime of stupid moment after stupid moment after stupid moment. You're completely exposed before God. He sees all of it. He sees right through everything that you try to cover it up with. But he has offered you a cover that works. Yes, you sinned. So each morning, get up and put on your clothes. Put on Jesus Christ each day. Each day when you get up, wear Jesus-like clothes. Before you face God, before you face the world, put on Jesus Christ. Let his perfect life cover your stupid moments. God will look at you and he will not see those moments. He will not see your failures. He will not see your sin. He will look at you and instead he will see his Son. He will smile upon you. He will bless you. And the more we wear Christ, the more we learn to wear him well, to fit him. That's our stupid moments. But after our own sin is covered, now let's think about how we react to the stupid moments we're going to see around us. From Ham, we've seen how easily one person's sin can lead to another's. And it is so easy to use your sin as an excuse for my sin. She took this from me, so it's okay for me to gossip about her. He does this wrong, and I don't, so it's okay for me to feel proud about myself. See how one person's sin has led to a sin in me. From Shem and from Japheth, we learn a better way. And there are two things that they do here that are better than what Ham did. First, protect yourself from their nakedness. Shem and Japheth are so careful not to see their naked father. They even walk backwards just to avoid the chance of, even by accident, looking upon what they could see. Also, they won't be pulled in to Noah and to Ham's mistakes. Now, we all know people around us are doing sinful things. That's not news. But the question is, do we always turn away? Do we always approach these things walking backwards to make sure we don't take part in them? There's something here as well about how they went together, the two of them. They helped each other to not look. So the first thing they did that was good, they protected themselves from looking upon that nakedness, from taking part in that nakedness. The second thing that they did that was good was that they offered a covering for that nakedness. Turning away does not mean going away. Shem and Japheth avoid Noah's nakedness, but they don't avoid his tent. They go in, and they go in carefully, but they go in and they offer the right covering for his sin. The garments that God had taught them to use. And in our case, that means we go in and we offer the clothing of Jesus Christ to them. This is how we can honor our father and mother even when they are sinning, even when they are doing things that might be really hard for us. In fact, this is what to do when anyone around you, anyone close to you, has a stupid moment, falls into sin. And they will. Even the most holy person like Noah, they will sin. Here's how we react. Not by adding our own sin. Not even by avoiding them. We go into the situation, we go in backwards, we take care not to sin. We go in and we offer them the right covering. We go in, we offer them the life and death of Jesus Christ on the cross. And then we will find ourselves in the group that God blesses. Let's pray about that. Father, we thank you that our sin has been covered, not by ourselves, not by our clever ways that we think we find to cover it, only by your Son, Jesus Christ, and his perfect life given on the cross. Only his blood can cover us and protect us from your wrath. We thank you that you have provided the perfect answer to our stupid moments. You haven't left us there. You have come in and you have rescued us. And Lord, from Noah's sons, help us to learn the lessons. Help us to be careful around sin. Help us to realize the dangers around us of all these things, and to protect ourselves, to take care not to become fascinated and fixated upon sin, to take care not to invite others into sin. Lord, help us to turn away from sin, to look away from sin, and help us to offer the covering for sin. Help us to share the good news of Jesus Christ with all those we meet who need a Saviour, and that is all those we meet. Lord, give us this heart, this attitude to the sin around us that we see and the people who do it. We long for more people we know to be covered with Jesus Christ. We think now of our family members who may have sinned against us, of close friends who may have sinned around us, of those we see every day who do sins that can so easily pull us in to our own sins of pride and jealousy and bitterness. Lord, protect us by your Holy Spirit. Give us the strength to turn away and give us the courage to offer the gospel into these situations. We pray for this, that Jesus might be glorified in us and through us in the whole world. In his name we pray. Amen.